Okay, so let's get into some Dolphins here. It's time to do some Dolphins. We're all super excited about the team. Team is 6-3 to a 6-0. 6-0 when he starts and finishes games. I think it's something like 13 out of 14 going back to last season when he starts and finishes a game. Best quarterback. All right. So very excited right now. The Dolphins are going on the road. They're getting wins. They're doing what a good team's supposed to do, and that's beat the teams they're supposed to beat. So let's bring aboard here for the first time on ZASLOW Show 2.0. And this is very new now. We have NBC6's Ruthie Polinsky joining us here. Are you going to be okay coming on the program now, Ruthie, where you can see me now? All right. I could see you. This is very different from what we've been accustomed to the last couple of years.
You know what? I love this. I think this is good for us. We have face to face. We can make kind of virtual eye contact. I can kind of see when you're making fun of me now. So it's much better this way for sure. But Zaz, I'm so happy for this next chapter of your journey. You gave me so many opportunities on the radio, and it helped me grow in my radio experience. So I'm just really grateful for you, and I'm just so happy to be joining you on this next phase of your life.
And you know what? I'll tell people as well. Ruthie was one of the first people who reached out to me. You know, well, it was a little more than a month ago. About a month and a half ago, probably, that I left, terrestrial radio, essentially. And Ruthie was one of the first people who reached out to me, and you were very nice, and I really appreciate that. And the part that I also really appreciate, it's not just people who are reaching out to me, but you reached out to me so quickly, and that could be a weird spot for people because you don't know what to say. The person might be dealing with a lot, and you were just like, F it, like this is what to say. And so I'm always going to remember that, you reach out right away. A lot of people you're like, I don't know what to say. And you went right after it. So I'm always going to remember that. I'm really appreciative of that.
Hey, like I said, I mean, really so grateful for everything. And I don't, I didn't know any of the circumstances. I still probably don't know a lot of the circumstances, but all I know is that you have been wonderful to me, and I'm really grateful for everything, the way you welcomed me here. So, I'm happy, and I'm happy for you.
Thanks. All right, enough of the sappy stuff. All right, let's get to Dolphins.
Who are we?
Enough of the sappy stuff. So, hey, you were in Chicago this weekend, right? You were at the game this weekend, right?
I was. Yep.
So,
I sure was.
So give me a little bit of the atmosphere out there, because that's a Bears team who I think they're slowly finding out, you know what, we might have a quarterback here. I know you went to school not too far from there. So like, had you ever been to that stadium before? You've probably been there before, right?
Yeah. Some people may know that I have a personal connection to that team. If you follow me on social media, I have a very close person in my life who is a member of the coaching staff in Chicago. So I'm all on board for what's happening with the Bears behind the scenes. I think they have a really special thing growing there. I think the new coaching staff that has come in is really impressive. They kind of have got it figured out. And I think what was really exciting about this past weekend, despite the loss, they've got their guy. And that is such a huge weight off of everyone's shoulders when like, okay, we have our quarterback. Like, that is so massive. And I think that's kind of the feeling for the fan base there too. I got so many texts from people. I'm from St. Louis, so I know a lot of Bears fans. I got so many texts from people being like, I've never been so excited about a loss, which I think is really kind of funny to hear. That people who have just been waiting for so long, and it just kind of feels like it's the same thing over and over again every year with Chicago. But I think what we saw on Sunday, even from our perspective, was that they were right there in that game and competing offensively with the best offense in the NFL. So I think it's really exciting to see what you have with Justin Fields. On the other side of things, I mean, this Dolphins team, again, it was 2 weeks against the Lions and the Bears, and you're a Dolphins fan, you're sitting there like, what the heck is going on? But this Dolphins offense, this Dolphins offense is the way that they can put 4 plays together and score. It's incredible to me. And I think for Dolphins fans who are sitting there like, where has this been? This is so exciting to say that we can get down the field and we can score. It's so exciting. They can really do it at will. Tyreek and Jalen and Tua, this like, it's the big three. I mean, it's so exciting and they're so fun to watch, and it's so cool to see how this offense is coming together. And you really feel good about this team's future when you look at them on the offensive side of the ball.
In the preseason, I sent out a tweet. I think it was the game. Was it the first preseason home game? And the very first play, it was Tua deep to Tyreek Hill. You remember you and I think, talked about it before that game. Hey, first play, it's so obvious. You got to go deep to Tyreek Hill. And I tweeted out right after that, Tua to Tyreek is the new Marino to Duper. Okay. And it's like a crazy thing to say, but I don't know. It's not that crazy right now because this is like the best Dolphins offense ever. All right. What they're doing right now. And as someone who has experienced it, I mean, I've been watching the Dolphins since the late 80s. So I saw almost all of Marino. I didn't see the record-setting season, in his second year, but I saw almost all of Marino. And it's been that long since we've had a team where every time the Dolphins get the ball, Ruthie, I expect them to score. Every time they get the ball, it's like, all right, we're going to score a touchdown this drive. It's just a matter of how many plays and how cool it's going to be and who's he going to throw. Like every single time they get the ball, Ruthie, I expect them to score.
Yeah, and that's what's so special. And I tweeted this yesterday because Tua's growth this year, everyone knows the dialogue this offseason is like, let's see. I don't think anyone, and I get people coming at me on social media saying like, you were a hater, you were a doubter. I never was out on Tua. I just said I have a lot more to learn about him. That was really what I wanted to see. And they put the pieces around him and everyone was all excited about, Tyreek and Jalen, and you still have Mike Gesicki, and you get a running back, and you get the Teron Armstead, who his significance cannot be understated. I mean, he is changing the way that whole line operates. And I think that's really, really special. The most important piece for Tua's success has been Mike McDaniel. And that, I think, for me, is what has just been really cool to see in terms of Tua coming into his own on the field. His personality is coming out. He's really just been flourishing under this new system. And what Mike did is he brought in a system that plays to Tua's strengths, and which we saw on the other side of the field today with what the Bears are doing. It took them a second to figure it out too. Like the offensive coordinator who came from Green Bay was trying to get Justin Fields to be Aaron Rodgers for the first couple of weeks of the season. And I'm sitting there like, let the kid run. We saw him run, and now he's coming into his own as well. And I think that's what the Dolphins have figured out with Mike McDaniel, with Tua, with the system, with the pieces around him. It's all clicking, and it's absolutely magical.
As someone who covered the team the last, couple of years with Tua under Brian Flores, how different is Tua this year when he talks to you guys? Just confidence wise, like how different is he?
Yeah, and I struggle with that because I really didn't like the narrative that came out about Brian Flores after he was fired through the media. I think Brian Flores had flaws as a head coach, and I think that he probably will be the first one to tell you that. He really struggled to put the offense together. He struggled to figure out what would work, and he couldn't really organize a staff that worked for him on the offensive side of the ball. And I think he'd be the first one to tell you that today. And I think you see what worked for him, and that obviously was on the defensive side of the ball. And in a lot of ways, I think they're missing him on that side of the ball this year. But I will say that I think on terms of Tua and what the relationship that he's found with Mike McDaniel, and I'm sure this part of Mike's hiring process was, hey, what is your perspective on Tua? And for Mike to be, I am all in. I'm going to make this kid good, and I'm going to make sure that the world sees how good he is. That was his mission from day one, from the FaceTime we saw on the plane. And that I think has been really exciting. And sometimes it just takes a different piece to connect with another piece, and feels like, those puzzle pieces are connecting quite perfectly. So it is good to see Tua find his guy. Mike McDaniel has found his guy, it seems, and we're watching something special.
Tyreek Hill not looking so stupid now. talking about before the season, he's hyping up his quarterback. He's the most accurate quarterback he's ever seen. Maybe it wasn't all lip service. Maybe Tyreek Hill, who is one of the best receivers in football, knows a little bit about what it takes to play quarterback.
Yeah, it's funny because he'll be the first. He talks about it in the locker room. Like, yeah, Tua was living up to everything I said he was going to be. Like, so all you people that like came at me, like, shut up. So I think it's really fun to see their connection and to see what's fascinating is that Tyreek Hill is on pace for a record season without Patrick Mahomes. I mean, that's wild to me when you think about it that way. So it's really cool for Tyreek. How lucky are we to just kind of get to watch this guy play football so up close and personal? He is absolutely a freak of nature. And I love when he did the backflip in the end zone because I'm sitting there like, if you didn't think he was already enough of a freak athlete, like now you're seeing him do a round off back handspring or round off backflip like in the end zone. It's just perfect. The chemistry, the vibe. I think I heard this correctly, but I was listening to the Raheem Mostert mic'd up from the game, and he was talking to Jeff Wilson, I think, saying like the morale on this team is different. Like the morale is different. I think he said that. I got to go back and listen. And that's awesome to hear because we're seeing it kind of on the field. So to hear those guys say, no, it's as good as it looks, like behind the scenes, it's just awesome. It's just a lot of fun. You can tell that they're having fun. We're having fun watching it. We could be in for something special this season. It really feels that way.
The winning helps. They're 6-3. So like when Raheem Mostert talks about the atmosphere and that kind of deal, the camaraderie, like 6-3 helps. But I do think there's also an element to it. And I liked Brian Flores when he was here, but I do think there's an element to it where, when the head coach is not a curmudgeon, when the head coach is not a hard ass, when you could look at it and see that the head coach is enjoying things, I mean, sometimes that helps a team move along a little bit.
100%. And I think with this new generation of kind of young players that are coming up through the league, I think we're seeing that around the league with this new age of young coaches, the Sean McVays, the LaFleur, the Kevin O'Connell, even in Minnesota. I just think there's kind of this new era, new wave of these young guys that are coming up through the league and kind of need that like positive. The hard ass doesn't always work.
Yep.
Maybe. And it didn't work last year. It did. I mean, they had a winning season. But it definitely has affected the offensive side of the ball this year. And that's, I think, obviously what fans, what media, what people are looking to see and write about at this point.
I got one more thing for you here on the Dolphins, Ruthie, and then I want to ask you something real quick about the Heat. And we do have a ZASLOW Show 2.0 poll question today, all right? It's election day, so everyone's got to go vote in the ZASLOW Show 2.0 poll question for it. Oh, look at that. You got your mail-in.
I got to go turn that in today.
All right, you got your mail-in. All right, you're fulfilling your civic duty. All right, a good American citizen.
I am voting like my reproductive rights depend on it.
Good. All right. I'm behind that. I feel the same way. I'm behind that. So, So one more thing on the Dolphins here. They are, I think it's a half game, 1 through 7 in the AFC. This AFC is a bloodbath. One game separates the first place team, which I think right now is still Buffalo at 6-2, and the 7th team, which is the Chargers at 5-3. Every one of these games, the rest of the way, this AFC is unbelievable.
Yeah, you can. It's interesting when you look at it that way because I'm sitting here. I kind of said this on my show on Sunday night. The AFC East is wide open. Anyone can win this division at this point. Really control. Any team can kind of control their own destiny. It feels like at this point. But then when you look at it that way, it's like, wow, one loss, man, and you could be out of the playoffs. The way that the AFC looks right now, and I will say this, to me, the defense needs to figure it out. They need to figure it out. And obviously you beat Buffalo once. You are going to go in there in December and you need to be able to have a defense and to be able to stop the Bills because and the Patriots and when it's cold in January. So you're gonna have to figure it out. Make sure that you can get stopped. Byron Jones doesn't sound like that guy's coming back anytime soon. Mike McDaniel said on Monday, no updates. So there needs to be something. I think hopefully Bradley Chubb will kind of help make more of an impact as he gets more comfortable in this defense and kind of finds his way. You hope so because you just paid him a lot of money. And so I'm hoping that there are some things that they can tweak, the next couple of weeks. Then you have a bye week, then you can kind of finish it out. So man, that defense is going to need to figure it out to be able to compete in the AFC because I'm that's where I am worried. You can get into a shootout all day, every day, but you're going to need to come up with some stops when you're going against the Bills, and that's where I get a little nauseous.
Were they not being truthful there, you think? Because you remember early in the preseason, Mike McDaniel said kept saying there's no reason to believe that Byron Jones won't be ready for week number 1. So we're going into week 10 now. So were they not being truthful or do we think there was a setback somewhere?
They keep saying no setbacks. So something's not right here.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have any information on that, so I can't really draw any implications there. But I will say it feels like Will Fuller last year. Remember Will Fuller? We were like, "Hey, what's up on Will Fuller?" There's not really a lot of information. They're not giving us a lot of information. I love Byron Jones as a human being. I hope that he is okay and that he can play football at some point this year. But man, it's really not looking so good. Is there a point when you're on IR that if you're out a certain number of times, you're out if you're out for so much, you're out the year?
Well, I know they just had to declare that with Austin Jackson, where either keep him on, he's out for the year, or make him part of the 53, which they did. He's now on the 53 again. So I don't know.
Great. Okay. I don't know. It's really disappointing because you looked at this defense and you say, man, they should pick up right where they left off. And they really simply haven't. So you're going to, thank goodness you're done with Lamar Jackson and Justin Fields because that you don't need to worry about anything like that too much, but unless maybe in the playoffs with Lamar, but I think there's you got to be able to figure out ways to create turnovers, get to the quarterback, make sure that you're getting. Was there one sack at Justin Fields this week?
Yes,
two
Melvin
technically
Ingram.
Because Duke Riley pushed him out of bounds behind the line of scrimmage. So I think you got to be able to affect the quarterback here, and you got to figure out something defensively because to let the Bears put up 32 points, you're kind of sitting there like he is special, but it's the Bears, right? So and the Lions. So when you're going up against these other teams, I'm very interested to see what Jacoby Brissett does coming in here this weekend because man, that guy's looking really good this year, and that's been fun to watch, I'm sure, for us locally because he's from around here and you want to see that guy succeed, and he was here, and but he's going to come in here and want to have a show, put on a show. So gotta stop him. Gotta stop the Browns.
ZASLOW Show 2.0 poll question at ZASLOW Show on Twitter. It's election day. Who gets your vote for more disappointing start? Did you think I was going to say who gets your vote, DeSantis or Chris? Who gets your vote? More disappointing start to the season? Miami Heat or Florida Panthers?
Miami Heat. I'm sad. They got to figure it out, but and they will. I think I'm not sitting here saying they're not going to figure it out. Max Strus, why does he kind of feel like the best player on the team a lot of the time? It feels like they can't figure out a role for Ty Sleeper for them to get nothing. So, but I did see that was a heartbreaker. Gotta close out these games, and that's kind of something that I think, is it matchups, is it lineups, is it, I don't know.
I mean, our defense stinks. Our defense has been good in the fourth quarter in the wins. The defense was non-existent in the fourth quarter last night. I mean, it's a crushing way that they lost last night, of course, but it amounts to they were up 10 in the middle of the fourth quarter. Like they just couldn't get stops.
It's very disappointing because that's what they hang their hat on. That's what they do. And you're sitting there like, man, is PJ Tucker really that big of a loss? And I'm kind of starting to think. You think no? I think
No.
yes.
No.
Because I will say this: earlier in the season, when they were, 2-5, maybe after they were 2-5, they were talking about communication and how they need to communicate better on defense, and that was always PJ's thing. He was the communicator on defense. So you wonder. I don't know. Something's got to click here, because it always does. It seems like it always does, but this is a team that was a shot away from the Eastern Conference, from the NBA Finals last year, and they sure don't look like it right now.
Ruthie, tell everyone how they can catch you. Are you on television tonight?
I am not. I am off today because it's election day and no one cares about me. But I will be back on tomorrow through the rest of the week. This is like the first weekend in a long time that I will not be traveling, so I'm very happy to be home in Miami. I think it actually looks beautiful outside right now, but I think we may get some storms coming up.
I got it raining over here, so eventually it's gonna.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I got it raining now.
All right, it does look a little windy. All right, we'll see what happens. But I was hoping to get some pool time in this week, not going my way. People in Chicago were like, "You live in Miami? You're not that tan." I was like, "Dang."
I mean, yeah, we're not all.
Busy.
Yeah, we're not. First of all, you're perfectly fine. I mean, I'm the one that people would look at and say, "How do you live in South Florida?" But not all of us are very tan. Not all of us.
I was like, okay, I'm busy. Like I'm not just like laying at the pool all day.
Right.
Like it's the busiest time of year.
Right.
But anyway, so yeah, I'm here. I'll be back on the air tomorrow. Sports Final. I got to do it from Detroit last weekend. I did it from Chicago this past weekend. This weekend, back in Florida, back in my little abode. So we got you covered all week. Excited to hear what the Dolphins are going to talk about this week. I don't know. It's a fun season right now, just covering this team, and it's fun when the vibes are good and everyone's happy. So they faced that little bit of adversity with the quarterbacks, the losing streak. They bounced back really nicely. Shout out to Tua Tagovailoa, because that man has certainly proved himself this year, and he deserves all the recognition. I mean, in the MVP conversation, in the Pro Bowl conversation, it's so good to see.
Yeah.
I love sports. I love seeing guys overcome adversity and proving people wrong. That's why we do this. So shout out to who's the best.
Ruthie, excellent job. It's good to have you back aboard the show. As I start to get the hang of all the technical issues, I'm getting more and more comfortable. We could start having you on regularly again. So we're back in the mix here, Ruthie.
Perfect. It's fun. I did have to do my makeup for you though this time, which I don't normally have to do on the radio, so that's a little bit of an adjustment. I'll just plan an extra 15 minutes for you in these windows, but I'm happy to come on anytime.
Excellent. Thanks, Ruthie.